Um, what I do like about the loader on this is that the cast iron legs they put up there are the heavy steel legs versus the sheet metal that they used to use. That's a big improvement on the loader. This tractor here is, even with the size of the engine, which is the same engine in the 494, they have an oil cooler on them, which is a good improvement. The 574 is the same engine except turbo. So this engine will be pretty popular in your shop. Here at the back, they do have the water drain system, but you can actually see the water in their primary fuel filter. And it's got a little knob on it. Just make sure that they watch that and drain the water off the primary fuel filter. Pretty much the same for the axle. This is like the 394 except stretch. The 354, except the 354 does have a hydraulic filter, I think. It's a little bit higher than the truck. The first 474s did not have a telescopic brakes. That's a good improvement. This here is what's going to sell the tractor. A lot of people like this. Now we had a guy buy a cab unit and he put a post hole digger on it, so you got to watch your customer, because when he raised the post hole digger, come up and hit one of these rear remote couplers and broke it off. So make sure you tell them about that. If you're going to sell them a box blade, tell your customer avoid pushing backwards with the box blade, because unless they have these super tight, because they won't handle the load. If they're pushing backwards and they start to turn, they're going to break these anti-sway bars. They'll just bend them all to hell. So don't just train your customer and make sure they understand that don't push going backwards like big box blade. Watch your implement on these fender extensions, because we've had big square 3-point bale spears come in, bust them right off. So make sure that you watch your implement when you raise and lower, protect these from getting damaged. Same thing, it has the cruise control. When you hit cruise, make sure that they hold the button down for a few seconds, 1001, 1002, and that should engage their cruise. Low, medium, and high, these always shift hard, just like you said. But these here will get better through time. They do get loosened up after a while. If you feel like you need to lubricate the pivot point, go ahead and do so. But just remember to tell your customer they need to roll that transmission to get it from low, medium, and high. It's a whole lot easier. Four-wheel drive the same way. Have it going forward while it's moving, engage or disengage the four-wheel drive. This tractor has, like the 264, the PTO can be disengaged. And what's good about a disengaged PTO is that you can line up the shaft and get the splines lined up easier, or you can buy the patented PTO adapter that we sell. So anyway, that's a good feature here. Also, if they're running a rotary cutter, I like to tell them to just kick this out when you're turning the cutter off, because let it coast to a stop. You don't have anything turning inside the transmission. It's just everything will freewheel. It's easier on everything. Basically you have a hydraulic clutch. So when you turn the PTO on, it's like a clutch pack, and that engages. It's hydraulically operated. But when you kick this out, all you're doing is lengthening the life of the clutches, because nothing's turning inside of it. If you sell a hay mower or a drum mower that has a lot of inertia, that works out real good for that. So it'll coast to a stop. You don't have anything clicking, no overrunning clutches working, nothing will wear. On these, not so much anymore, but the earlier models, the tires, you got to watch your tires gouging into the loader frame. You do have an adjustment bolt up here. You can extend that to prevent the tires from hitting the loader frame. And really, rough terrain and with the wheels cramped, those tires can make contact with that. This is the stepper motor here for the regen system. All it does is measure the delta P across the catalyst bed inside the diesel particle filter. Once the delta gets up too high, the stepper motor here will create a flow restriction, and then what happens then, it just generates extra heat, and that's what cleans out the system. You'll see the light come on. I don't know how many hours. On the Yanmar driven unit, look for 40 hours. You're going to start seeing the regen stuff show up. And if anybody comes in and says they can't get their light to go out, is put it in, take off your implement, put it in road gear, go down the road 3 or 4 miles, and then come back with it at full throttle. And that usually kills it.
Good amount of fuel.
Full of diesel. If it's doesn't have enough diesel in it, it will not regen because it will think it doesn't have on the Yanmars. What they do, they inject diesel on the exhaust stroke in the exhaust manifold, or they inject during the exhaust cycle. So that blows raw diesel into the diesel particle filter and creates a fire. This in here doesn't do that. It just creates a flow restriction.
It goes into regen on its own, you said?
Yeah, all of them do. Once it measures the delta P across this catalyst bed, then it'll say, okay, I got to start doing something. Now, it may restrict your horsepower.
You still have a stationary part regen?
You can do this stationary, but I just tell people keep on going. But unless they're in a heavily loaded condition. So if they're pulling a good tillage tool with this, if they're pulling a pretty good sized mower and they are in some heavy material, we have the hay grass here, which is hemp. If they're pulling through that makes it real tough.
I mean, it's doing it, they're going to see it on the dash.
Yeah.
Like the Yanmar.
Tell them leave the buttons alone, let it do its own thing. This tractor here does have the better cushioned seat in it. So always make sure that customer gets in the seat and we show them the features of the triangular knob here is the height, the distance it travels. But you want to get either the wife or the husband in there and make sure that they turn this dial where the seat just floats. And if they are comfortable driving a tractor and the seat really is a nice seat, they'll enjoy the tractor that much more because it rides good. So make sure you show the features of the seat. Anything yellow indicates checkpoint. Make sure that you tell them to clean their radiator out. I tell them to go to an auto parts place and get a skinny air nozzle and clean the radiator out, but I tell them not to use water. I avoid using water anywhere on a tractor unless they're pressure washing it, but I'll make sure that they avoid trying to get water in the alternator or any kind of a electrical connection. Try not to just spray water right there. Loader points, 10 hours. Same on the loader bucket, quick attach. It does have the float position. Make sure that when you are commissioning the tractor that you put this back and don't make an ass out of yourself, because when you lower the bucket, you'll bend this. So make sure when you close the hood, you put the bumper back and then lower your bucket. Thank you. When you look at this tractor versus the 494 and the 574, the TX57 was the 47. It's significantly larger piston rods, so it can handle a whole lot more than this. That's why I don't recommend putting a round bale on the front of this unless it's a 4x4, 4x5, or 3x3. And it'll handle it just fine. Now, in our specs, it'll say it'll pick up, maybe Sharon knows this, how much weight it'll actually pick up. And you guys know this in the forklift world, just say, I got a GPX 40 to lift 9,000 pounds. It'll lift it, but can you take off with 9,000 pounds in the front? And the answer is no. It will lift it, but it won't handle it very well. So be careful what you sell the customer that they put on the front of this. I would still go with the light duty set of pallet forks, nothing 48 inch that can handle 3,000 or 4,000 pounds. Stick with something under 2,000 pounds to protect the tractor and to protect them. You can get them hurt if you sell them the wrong chip. So you just got to assume that they're all stupid and don't know a damn thing.
I agree.
Yeah, you have to. So.
Making sure you edit that, Chris.
I will. I'll take it out.
2152. All right, so if you take a 6x5 round bale, now then we multiply that distance. You know, we take 1,500 to 1,600 pounds times the 6, and at this point here, and this point here, imagine how much mechanical leverage is right here at these 2 points. So, and then multiply that weight at this pivot point on this front axle. So it's not a good idea to sell this tractor to move a 6x5 round bale unless you sell them a small baler and they know, and you know that's all they're going to move, then it's fine. But we have that question around here all the time. Can we move a 6x5 round bale like the 264? It will on the back, but not on the front. I think a bale spear is one of the worst things you can put on a tractor. Loader frame on this, really it's torqued, but maybe when you see it in for a 300 hour PM, you may have to look for any kind of movement here from excessive load. Check the torque. I don't recommend reusing a fastener. I recommend replacing a fastener on a loader frame, because if it's been stretched and yielded too many times, it's not going to keep its strength. Same kind of oil in this tractor as you use the 264. We use the Dello 15W40. You can use your own oil, whatever you love, but we still use a premium 303 or premium hydraulic oil in the rear axle. What the Korea is using, they're using something really good because it's clear, it doesn't stink, and it must be a really good lubricant. The break-in oil in these has a lot of zinc. Zinc is slick, and what it does, it works good for about 100, 150 hours, but it breaks down after that. You got to get it out of the engine. They want to do a 50 hour, but with this break-in oil with that high zinc content, it won't. It'll start, the viscosity will start coming up. It'll be like 145 weight if you don't get it soon enough. And then, of course, when you have high viscosity oil, it doesn't cool as well, then you can have damaged bearings in your engine and stuff like that. So I'm surprised that 1540 is good enough for these small engines. They're going to a lighter grade oil in the automotive world because it's less resistance and the engines get better fuel mileage. Bearing clearances in these is like 1 and 1.5, so it's pretty tight. That's good enough for 15W40. I don't have one here. Every once in a while you want to check these bolts. Guess this will go to rattling, and it'll create a high frequency vibration that can be annoying, so tighten these every once in a while. Or check them before you do delivery, because when they're driving around, this can get excited and hum and it raise hell. So if they tighten this, that'll go away. Any questions? Oh, one other thing. Same here on this tractor here, except it's a little harder. The good thing is that they put a holder here for a cup, but some people may want to put a Yeti or a 24-ounce beer or quarter beer like I drink down here, and it can engage the remotes. So here you go again. You're in that situation where nothing will work. You're just deadheading against the remotes here and superheating your oil. These remotes, the hydraulic system on a TYM is very powerful. Now, with the exception, and you'll back me up on this, with a heavily loaded bucket, they got to be moving before the steering wheel will turn. Before the steering tires will turn, because it's not enough. If they would put a larger diameter hydraulic cylinder on the front, maybe, and then maybe a little bit higher pressure, they could solve that problem. But I haven't seen it, but I haven't been looking for it. But not only has he told me about it, but there's been some others that bought this tractor and they cannot turn the steering wheel, or the tires will not turn with a heavily loaded bucket. But I will tell you this much, there's a lot of other older tractors or a lot of other colors out there that will do the same thing. I think if the steering tires will not turn, you're too heavy in the first damn place. So that's too much. This feature here was a very simple, cheap addition that sells the tractor better than the 394 and the 354, plus the no computer on the engine. So price point on this, I know Sharon sells tractors more than I do, but this here is going to be a good selling tractor. Just because it doesn't have a computer, it has this feature here, it makes things easy to hook up. It still feels heavy. It's got a good loader, and it's a quick attach loader. It's got a really good seat on it, and I think this one here is going to do really, really well for TYM.
Can you tell us how the